Welcome, everybody, to Gardens, the Untold Story. And just like me and Andy, Andy's computer is old. And, it takes a while to get going, when you first fire it up.
I don't realize it, but it must be at least 20 years old.
And that is really old for a computer. I'm surprised it's can run at all Windows 11.
Well, I had the state of the art using it for VR, so I had to have a high quality processor and all that stuff. But thinking about it, it's probably at least 15 to 20 years old.
Yeah,
It
yeah, it's
doesn't like
time.
it doesn't like Windows 11.
No, I know there's a lot of people that are really having problems with Windows 11, but well, it's time to move on. Hi, chairs, Boulder and Silly Lily. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to you as well. And Mr. Diggity Dank. So we're supposed to be talking about refractometers, so I think we should jump right into that.
Okay, though. I'm wondering how many people know what a refractometer is out there. Is anybody out there using one? Wave your hand if you're using a refractometer, or wave your hand if you don't know what a refractometer is. I guess
Well,
nobody's.
yeah, nobody's really we got a peace sign there, but I think that most people understand that a very little amount about a refractometer. I know that you're testing the sap from the plant for the level of sugar content in the plant is what my understanding is. Diggity says to check nutrient density of food.
Right. So it's also in terms of pot growers. So why would a pot grower want to have a refractometer to check because you're not eating it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's but so the terminology is more like the food that the plant is ingesting.
Now,
See,
bricks.
and it's not that
Which,
bricks, the BRC.
yep.
Yeah, it's
And
BRC.
Diggity says infrared.
I don't know what infrared has to do with a refractometer. Uh, it could have something to do with it because the refractometer, what it does is that it refracts the light.
Yeah.
And yeah, right, it's BRC.
BRIX.
Is it BRX?
I think it is brick.
I,
Well,
th-
I'm not sure.
I think it's BRIC. I'm not sure now either. That's what happens when you get old. Yeah, yeah.
Like your computer, your brain's having a little glitch there, getting started.
So I started using a refractometer really, really early, as you can figure out. Only because I was curious when we go shopping. My mother, I told you about that. My mother, the
Mm-hmm.
grocery store would give my mother would get caught nibbling on things, and the
Right.
grocer said, "Okay, I'm just going to cut you a piece from now on. Every time you come here, I'm just going to cut you a piece." And he got
Yeah.
in the habit. Other people will cut. You would cut it for other people. So here, taste it. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, right. And it's always based upon how sweet it was, not necessarily how bitter it was or how sour it was, but
Yeah.
how sweet it was. And humans and all creatures have evolved to have eat things that are sweet and avoid things that are really, really bitter and sour, but they're usually poisonous.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned. So and then I heard about a person who invented the refractometer. It was a cook, and I decided the one I showed you last show was given to me by him. It's from Leica, the lens company, the camera company.
Okay.
Right. So they make this one, and this was a $10,000 unit back in 19. Let's see, what year was that? 78, I think it was 79, 80.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it has a top on it. And this is where you put your product
Sample.
in, right? You
Yeah.
sample it, and you look through the lens. It'd be really cool if we could somehow blow up the how you could see through the lens. So you can see the. Have you ever used a refractometer?
Actually, no, I never have.
None of us are getting younger. Don't say that, man. I don't know. I'm shocked now. I'm going to have to rest. I think I have to go rest now because I'm in shock.
I'm a 26 and holding. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm 26 and holding.
So in terms of growing pot, here's my philosophy on it: is that a refractometer actually measures the level of sugar, but I've learned a long time ago that sugar is the way that Mother Nature devised her distribution system for minerals.
Okay.
Right? So a refractometer tells you the sugar level, which also relates to, generally speaking, the mineral level, but it doesn't tell you exactly what mineral,
Right.
right? Or because you have 96 different minerals, you could have 10 or 20 different minerals, and it still will raise the sugar level to a certain degree, right? So you don't know exactly what minerals is there, and you can get the more expensive ones, which are basically they look at stars and planets, and the light breaks it up, and they can see the elements, right? So we don't have one of those to do that, right? We have a small one which just basically breaks it up into the sugar level. You have to figure out for yourself what does that mean in terms of minerals, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's a guy and I have a really cool ebook I'm happy to give away for free. I might figure out a way to get it out to everybody. It's basically an ebook that shows you all the Brix level of all different types of plants and vegetables and fruit.
Would it be
Right.
on your website at all already? Because I
No,
can just
it's not on the website, but what I'll do is I'll put it on when I do a blog about this show. I'm going to start doing a blog on this show. When I do a show, I'm going to say, well, this is what we talked about on the show. And
okay.
so I'll put and then I can put anything else up there that we don't happen to get in time to. So there's a really cool ebook, and what I'll do is we can actually even cover that ebook, do a screen share, and show you the different pages and stuff, different levels. And what I want to do is I want to help people understand that they can relate it to their pot plants.
Mm-hmm.
You want to start a little log and start doing Brix level books reading of your marijuana plants. You're going to find that you're going to when you grow a certain plant and you really like it and everything's really cool about it, it has a really good stone, a really good high. You want to know the Brix level of that plant.
Okay.
Right. So when you're growing, your goal is to get into that Brix level. Wherever plants are growing, and you're going to find that generally speaking, there's a certain Brix level you have to reach, just like in citrus and tomatoes and vegetables, that there's a certain Brix level you're shooting for.
Mm-hmm.
I know almost all the Brix levels by heart. For example, I can tell you Brix levels up to what tomatoes should be or citrus should be.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if you have different varieties of tomatoes or different varieties of citrus, they have at different parts of the world, right? They all have different levels of Brix readings.
Right.
It's not going to be the same for a citrus for around the world, or tomato, or even a marijuana plant around the world. It's going to be modified by their environment, right? And
Okay. And the minerals in the soil, right?
exactly right, exactly right. So you can do a Brix reading for a tree, a rose. And in terms of pot, it's even more because you're actually ingesting it, whether you're smoking it or eating it.
Okay.
Right? Right? And you're going to find that the certain minerals, and I'm sure these guys know that if it has certain minerals in it, the plant will be stonier, taste better, have all the qualities, all the CBDs, and all the various different types. There's a CBG now.
CBN, CBG, CBC as well.
Right, right. So, and you'll find that those relate to also trace certain minerals.
Okay.
So, if your plant is deficient in any one of those minerals, your plant will be deficient in corresponding, whether it be whatever is, if it's pot, then it will be whatever the cannabinoids missing or whatever else.
Cannabinoids and terpenoids,
Right,
terpenes,
exactly.
cannabinoids. Yeah.
Exactly. And you're also going to find too that, when you get my favorite plants are basically sativa, and I really lean towards Thai more than anything else.
Right.
If last time you smoked Thai, if you ever had, how sweet they are.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there's a definite sugar level going on in these plants.
Yeah.
You see, and so a refractometer is a really cool tool that you can use. And refractometer is mainly, it was originally used to measure the juice, like tomato juice,
Mm-hmm.
citrus. Is used for wine in the wine industry, right? The certain sweetness of the wine has to be a certain sweetness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Booze is the same thing. All those things they use a refractometer so they can test their juice or their product,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I think it's very important in the wine industry
Right,
because you need a certain amount of sugar for the process of making wine.
right. If it's too sweet, then you can't drink it. But I started using it for plants.
Mm-hmm.
No, no. The thing is that I also use it on the leaves and flowers.
Okay.
Okay, so that tells you different information than from the juice. The juice has already been processed by the plant, right?
Right.
This is a product of the plant. But when you're actually doing the plant, you'll know more because what you're really concerned is, and the bottom line is giving the plant whatever it needs.
Well, so like I know that a lot of people are starting to do what's called a sap analysis, where they're actually taking the sap and in telling you within a 7 to 10 day window what your plant is going to need for
Right.
nutrients. So in some ways, this would be the same thing.
It is exactly right. So uh, when you're measuring the sap of a plant, it's telling you exactly how successful you are in feeding it in terms of what it's getting.
Right.
So you can tell if it has a calcium deficiency, iron deficiency, magnesium deficiency. You can tell. And these things are also has to do with how you can tell what minerals are missing, because it refractometer doesn't actually say iron on it. It
Well,
doesn't.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, how do you actually tell that? Is that part of the ebook that you have? Is
No,
that going to tell us, or
no. The ebook mainly measures, tells you what the bricks reading should be for the specific plants,
okay?
certain health level. I think there's a good, better, poor. You have a rating, right? So basically, poor
Okay.
health, good health, really good health, right? Different grades of health. And
Okay.
one of the reasons why they do that is because it also correlates to the amount of bugs and diseases you're going to get.
Yeah, a healthy plant doesn't get attacked by bugs.
Right, or diseases.
Yeah.
So for example, a tomato, for example, I was looking at last time I grew some tomatoes, they were like 28. The Brix level was 28. 28 to 32 are really good levels for to have citrus. Even tomatoes or any of the fruit, when it's up that high, you know that it's getting the minerals. You don't know what their minerals are. And I
Yeah.
learned from
Yeah.
I've learned, and then you can still have problems. And why? The reason is because you don't know. 96, you could be getting 80 trace minerals, 16 missing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the ones
Exactly.
that's going to cause the problem.
And
Right?
that's why we were talking last week about rock dust and how important that is to bring all those different minerals into, your soil system so that they're there. Now, that I think we need to explain how to use a refractometer, because like you're saying, normally it's for the juice, but you're talking about testing the leaf structure, etc.
And
So
the
how
flower.
would we go about that, Andy?
So I have a little it's a little motor and pistol
Okay.
that I use. And so a lot of times you can take the leaf and put it on there and just crush the leaf without adding any liquid whatsoever to it all. I've learned
Okay.
sometimes you have to add some liquids. You use a drop of distilled water to turn it into a liquid. But if you get enough leaf or enough flour, you can get a little enough moisture where you can take that and put it on
Yeah.
the little lens, so it's enough to read it.
Yeah, because I don't think you need very much fluid to be able to
No,
get a reading from it.
you don't need a whole lot. Like a third of a drop, you know,
Okay.
something along those lines. So what I do is and also too is like when you're growing anything, you start a plant when it's first young. You do a little bricks reading of it when it's young
Okay.
to give you an idea of where the level is. And if you were to do it
Right.
as it grows, you'll see the level grows up as the plant gets bigger and bigger and healthier. And if you
So
were
you're
to study
setting a
it,
baseline is what
right,
you're doing when it's young.
right, and if you study it long enough, and if the plant starts to get some kind of disease, you're going to see that the bricks level is staying at that level. It isn't going any higher. You're not getting a higher rate.
Okay.
So when you get a disease, and you know the and you it's the opposite with me because if I see the bricks level not going up, I know there's going to be a problem. And that's why I started doing it on leaves and roses and flowers and other things. Because
Mm-hmm.
as a gardener, I don't really need that, but I always like to have the proof and
Yeah.
connect it to other things. Because people say, "Well, how do you know?" Well, check this out. Here's a device that'll tell you if you're
Yeah.
on the right path. It doesn't say exactly what's missing. That's why you always have to. That's why the C90 is a
Yeah.
very good source of it. Usually, all different kinds of seaweeds from around the world are rich in various different other minerals in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending what part of the world they come from, And you're also gonna find that that's why the rock dust I like because the rock dust basically, if you they come from different parts of the world, and basically are rich in whatever is from that area,
Yeah.
right? So that's why the more varied the sources of minerals, the more likely you're going to get these exotic compounds, minerals that you need,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's where you want to have various different sources of it in order to make sure. That's why when I get animal manure, aloe vera, that must be a trick.
And sea moss.
Oh, what's he talking about? Aloe vera, is that a source of minerals?
I'm not sure why he
It
put
must be a password. Aloe vera, right?
could be. Yeah, yeah. I can see the sea moss because we were talking about the stuff coming out of the sea, the algae and kelp, etc. He's saying trace minerals for the aloe vera.
Well, okay, that's cool. That's interesting because aloe vera is a very, very healthy plant. That's one way also so you can tell if it has all the trace minerals in it, and it's also used for healing. So aloe
Mm-hmm.
vera could very well have a lot because a lot of so-called weeds are very rich in a lot of the trace minerals.
Well, that's what they're designed to do. They're designed to draw those trace minerals up and put it back into the soil system for the next level of plant growth. We call them weeds. I call them, excuse me, earlier transitional plants, because really that's what they are.
So that's what the Rudolf Steiner's biodynamic system was to say, okay, different plants are rich in different trace minerals because that's what
Yeah.
they do. Let's get them all together and come up with a process which is let's duplicate what's in the stomach, right? The stomach would process stuff. Let's put
Mm-hmm.
stuff in the stomach. That's what he did. He would take a cow stomach, put all these different kinds of leaves in it, put them in there, bury it, dig it up after a few months, and that would be his preparation.
Mm-hmm.
See, because the microbes in the stomach would have broken down the leaves,
Yeah.
and we're not very good at chewing leaves. We can chew all we want to, but we're not going to be able to really do the absorption trick. That's why, we vegetarians are good, but we still have to eat something with the minerals in it. Hopefully, the
Yeah.
minerals could be in the vegetables.
They're supposed to be anyway.
Usually, it's not right unless you're
Not
really
anymore. No.
right unless you're really good at growing things and growing with the minerals. And so the rock dust is a crucial. It's called remineralization, basically.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and the re and you really, I'm going to try to get. I know I can get the remineralize.org lady to come on, and Don Weaver is the name of the other person who wrote the book Remineralization, and we
Okay.
talk about remineralization, how the planet normally remineralizes itself, and how we now have to really do that for the planet because we stopped all the natural recycling process, not stopped entirely, but it's really down to where there are less and less animals doing their things. You're supplying nutrients and different microbes to the soil than ever before.
Yeah.
And there are lots of things in the system now that's actually not beneficial. There's radiation. There's different kinds of toxins. All kinds of things happening on the planet right now. that is not
Yeah.
really. We really don't want to recycle radiation as much, nuclear radiation around. See what I mean? So
Mm.
so right now the system is not entirely working right in terms of it's really behind in keeping up with this building the soil because it has been normally Mother Nature builds soil.
Yes.
Why?
Well, and you have to consider, I don't know that it's not that the minerals, etc., aren't there. It's the biology that's necessary to draw those minerals out of the sand silt clay aren't there. And I think that's more the problem than the minerals not actually being there.
Well, to me, the I call it soil depletion. I think a lot of places the minerals are not there because Mother Nature has not put them back again. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I talked about. That Mother Nature is constantly putting the minerals in, and
Mm-hmm.
we have kind of messed up with that cycle a little bit. You see, so the minerals are not being put in. It's only so much minerals in the soil that will come out. So you have to be constantly putting it in. That's what Mother Nature does, constantly be putting in. So you have to, whether you're growing in containers or whether you grow a vegetable garden, you constantly have to have a system that's constantly bringing in minerals in the right form. You bring too much, it's toxic. Don't bring enough. That's the same thing in human
Yeah,
body. I was talking to a doctor says you need a certain amount of minerals. Too much is no good for you.
that's right.
You know what I mean? You need water, but too much of the wrong kind. It's the wrong way to drink water. You're not going to get the electrolytes and all that stuff that you eat for your body. So it's a process of we have to constantly be remineralizing all the time, and we're way behind in the mineralization process. And that's
Okay,
why we.
so Ghetto Hippie has an interesting statement. Deciduous tree leaves compost has a similar mineral content as powdered rock dust, but without the heavy metal levels.
So I totally agree, and I thought about it for a real long time in terms of the minerals, and the rock dust have heavy metals in it, but remember they're also necessary. These are some
Yeah,
of the exotic products. The problem is when you get a one particular type of rock dust is really has more heavy metals than you're supposed to get. Because remember, not
yeah,
all the things have been approved by nature for people. We're using them. You
yeah.
know, we're deciding, well, we're going to take this, we're going to use it. And these things just so happens to be too toxic in these heavy metals. And heavy
Well,
metals is
and then you're getting out of balance, and it's really about that balance that we need. And like Leighton's always telling us, don't be a moron. Don't put so much of that on to put things out of balance. And I think that's one of the keys that we need to remember. And we can check that balance to a certain extent, I think, with the refractometer, because we can see if our plant is healthy or not.
right. And it's a really good point. What was his name that said about the trees and the
Oh, Ghetto Hippie
yeah,
2.
hippie too, right? And he's absolutely right that the leaf, the deciduous tree leaf is perfect because that's already been processed by one of the best beings on the planet, the trees, and the trees have processed the minerals, and they're not going to be heavy. They're not going to find heavy metal to the degree that's toxic in any of these their
Yeah.
systems. Only us humans have decided we're doing this, and that we're going to have this much left. This is what it produces, right?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Right. So and the compost and really when you're getting compost and animal manure, they're going to be more heavier with heavy metal now because we're very good at polluting the environment. Everything with heavy metals,
Yeah, yeah,
with toxic amounts of these metals, which we normally should be getting parts per billion. Now we're getting way too much as it is now, right? For it to be certain
yeah,
silver, mercury, lead. Normally they're there, but not in these concentrations.
yeah.
Well,
So that actually would segue really into this question: is chelation more difficult when the metals are in the rock?
the chelation process is best done by Mother Nature.
Hmm.
So the microbes can take the metal, including heavy metals and toxins and radioactive waste, and convert it. There are different types of microbes that'll do that. Us
Hmm.
humans will have a harder time dealing with it, with figuring out how
Yeah,
to separate it and how to get it down to the right proportion that it becomes effective, right?
yeah. Well, the
Otherwise,
microbes are designed to break down the compound right down to the molecules. And as soon as you break the two molecules apart, you don't have the same heavy metal. You have the two different molecules.
exactly right. We can't do that.
No.
You see, so what we're good at is building up toxics. That is what we're good at. So right now
Yep.
there's so much toxins everywhere, and so less and less microbes breaking it down. So
Yeah.
that's what we have to do is we have to let it let the microbes process for us so that we have and then we could use it. And that
Yeah.
and it's and unfortunately our bodies are not very good at uh, I was going to say processing because you can't get heavy metals in your body and expect the body to say, okay, spit it out, whatever way, right? It stays in your body.
Yeah.
You see, so we're like we act like a filter for heavy metals and toxins,
Well, and
right?
that's what Ghetto Hippie just said. We are filters.
Exactly. I picked up on you. I thought that I saw your thought form, Gato, and it's exactly right. We're the filters. And
Yeah.
it ends up in our body, in different parts of our organ and parts of our electromagnetic system, because
Yeah.
these are heavy metals, which are also affected by magnetism and electro energy and so forth. See?
Now, I just had a thought jump into my
Oh
head.
no!
I know it's scary. I know really scary some days. But when you make your elixirs using your gems and crystals, and you're keying into the different minerals that a person needs, is that part of the fixing the heavy metals that the minerals are actually binding to that heavy metal and drawing it out of your system? Just a
Well,
thought popped into my head.
well, see, the heavy metals are also certain frequencies, and
Hmm.
they respond to the laws of nature, just like all the other minerals stuff, the minerals that the Earth has. And so
Yeah.
we're meant to use all those things
Hmm.
ourselves. Our bodies are meant to use that, and so it has to be in the right amount. So usually when you're when the way I work and I do the same thing with plants and trees and stuff is really by tuning into their frequencies, and to me their frequency translates into like a TV channel that I can
Yeah.
watch. And to me, it's if everything's functioning correctly, that means all the minerals are there in the right proportion. When you get
Hmm.
the minerals, any minerals, whether it be silver, gold, iron, lead, and the toxic, and too much is real easy, right? Real easy to
Yeah.
do too much. They're toxic and they clog up the system. They inhibit the ability of energy to be transmitted. Essentially, that's what it comes down to. So your frequency changes,
Okay.
right? You're no longer transmitting at the frequency you were supposed to, but you're at a different frequency. It's like a tuning fork on a radio dial when you're turning the frequencies, right? You can
Yeah.
move it
Yeah.
over just a little bit. You're on a different frequency, right?
Yeah.
And that usually translates to sickness and illness and diseases.
Hmm.
That's the frequency. So and the only real way to deal with it for me is to strengthen the frequency that you're supposed to have in the first place. So
Right.
each human being has one frequency that basically means I'm a human being, but they also have another frequency that says this is my body. This is me. This is my body. My body is made of this one, a certain age, genetics, all the whole things. You have a certain frequency you give out. The same thing with plants and the animals and insects. They all have certain frequencies that they give out if they're healthy and they
Yeah.
function at a certain level. That means all these minerals are doing it. They're in the right proportion, and it's like tuned. They're all tuned, right? Ding, tuned,
Yeah.
and that gives off a certain and the frequency is harmonious,
Yeah.
right? It's a harmonious frequency, a chorus. I call it like music. If you
Yeah.
listen to music, that's why I like music because it's a harmonious frequencies.
It's a proper symphony when it's right, and it's really out of tune when it's wrong.
And it's the
But
same, exactly.
Super Nessa has a question for you in a way. Drink from the tree, and please come back to tell us what you see. Super Nessa taps trees, and he's using tree sap to feed his plants and himself because he drinks the water from the trees. Have you ever tried that?
No, I haven't, but I would tell you that it would be like tripping, because if you're gonna the frequencies from the tree, or in other words, the minerals from the tree is exactly what our body needs when we're pure and healthy.
Right.
So if you're sick and you take this, you're going to have this. You're going to be tripping, because you're going to be tripping when you're healthy. It's like, so if you haven't been healthy in a while, and you start being healthy, all of a sudden you're tripping. You're going, oh wow, this is something else, right?
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble if I get healthy then, okay?
Yeah,
Because
right. See,
I'd be really tripping.
exactly, and that's a really cool. In a lot of ways, it's also really good for old age, because it combats all that old age is your inability to absorb the trace minerals that your body needs. That's
Now,
all it
I
is.
have a question for myself. I was talking with a gentleman, and he was talking about, pulling up the biology from deep in the earth through the roots of trees, etc., and that it would be like an earlier biology that hasn't been on the surface for an extended amount of time, like decades, and using that in his grow in a lot of ways what the Super NASA is doing. What do you think of that?
So in Russia, they found this lake that you may have heard about it. They dug a well down, and it hasn't been exposed to for millions and millions of years, and it's full of microbes and bacteria living in things that
Yeah,
they have not been on. They've been on the planet, but not on the surface and not exposed
yeah,
to
yeah,
it. And they're starting to study these little creatures, and they realize that they could either be destruction to the earth, or bring harmony to the earth. In other words, they could be very good at cleaning up toxins, or they could be very good at killing us too, because we have no defense against them. But
yeah, yeah.
I love the idea of ancient biology.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because
Well,
they were the survivalists that what cost life to survive, because they made it through all the different things that are going on the planet, whether it be volcanic activity, right,
yeah, yeah,
flood, all these things, and if they're still, if you happen to get to be able lucky enough to run into them, you'll find that, like maybe the tree sap, he may have discovered a really cool way of going back thousands, if not thousands of years, if not hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years,
yeah,
to where we were in that state, where we were closer to being beautiful beings than we are now, because we
mm-hmm.
would drink pure water, eat pure food, and the environment
Yeah,
was totally clean. Now we have more toxins than ever before, so our system is constantly looking for some way to purify. So a filter
yeah,
like the trees, because the trees is an actually perfect filter. It's the
mm-hmm.
perfect filtration system. Gives off oxygen, takes in carbon dioxide, and it uses the carbon dioxide to convert the minerals into a form that the tree can absorb. And then when the
Yeah.
tree dies, it puts it back in again. Actually, before it even dies, it gives off the energy to other trees around it. It feeds
Well,
off.
it feeds its babies.
Right. It feeds its base. And one of the interesting things we can talk about sometimes is how trees communicate. Not
Oh,
just trees,
yes. Yeah.
not just trees, but other creatures can communicate too.
Mm-hmm. Well, through the fungal network, it is the computer of our planet that communicates all across our planet in a split second. Like I know Paul Stamets did an experiment where they put an isotope in the ground at one point, and I think his students were, I think it was 2 miles away. And as they put the isotope into the soil by this one tree, the students registered it going in 2 miles away. There is distance has no meaning for that network of energy and understanding that's in our soils.
So let's just take it one step further. It's a planet-wide being.
Yes, it is a being.
It's a
Yeah.
planet. It's a planet-wide being. So when you that's one reason why I do the mushrooms, and I came to the understanding that what you're doing when you're tripping is you're in the consciousness of this being. and this being doesn't speak English.
No.
You know what I mean? So it has its own language that
Yes.
that you learn, and the language is not a verbal language, it's emotional language, the physical. See, so and it's a being that we all beings on the planet have worshipped, whether what part of the world they're at. They're talking to
Mm-hmm.
the very same being, and it comes across the very same in terms of whether you're doing awasa, you're doing the told, you're doing much. It's the same being.
Yes.
There's just different tools that you letting you use to access it. See,
Yes, to bring down your barriers that are holding you away from it so that you can actually touch the energy level and feel the energy level and accept it as a reality, because normally our minds block all of that out, and when you relieve that veil basically and you touch that, it's a whole different reality.
it's interesting too in the sense that see I know friends who are scientists, I know friends who are physicians, and they sometimes they get together and some really crazy talks about basically it's a blend of science and religion.
Yeah.
And they're really talking about the very same thing. Quantum physics really can be translated to religion and physics.
Yep. Oh yeah, easily.
It's the very same thing. So
Yeah.
So again, it goes back down to what we're trying to do on this planet. Really, basically, is to survive, right? To live out our life. But there's a really cool way of doing it in harmony with everything around us, as opposed to burning down the house and tearing everything down. You don't really get anything out of that, and that's what it's all really about now. That we have to basically get across to people that you're tearing down your house.
Yeah.
And if you don't, the house I was with over today, the lady planted a bunch of stuff. And it's just in straight clay, and everything's having a real rough time trying to survive because it's not the environment to be growing in.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And if she had talked to me first, I said you should have talked to me first because I would have bought some soil and put soil in here, turn it all over, and mend it with compost, and really have a nice growing environment rather than sticking it into this hard clay, because you basically had to dig with it with a pick.
Yeah.
It's like a big container. No air goes in there. The root systems are just going to stay right there. You're lucky if it drains.
Well, and that's the biggest thing is the drainage, because you're creating like a clay pot. You're putting these roots in. Anytime it rains, the plant is drowning. There's no oxygen getting to the roots because the water can't penetrate the clay.
That's happened many times. So people will call me, what's going on with this tree? And I bring a post hole digger.
Yeah.
So I go down, and it won't be long before when you're taking the soil out, you bring it out mud. And then if you look, you see basically water down there. So it's sitting. This is like 5 feet down.
Yeah.
It's sitting in water. No drainage whatsoever. It's sitting in water. And that's why the trees are rotting. Going back. And then they water more, and then they water more when it needs water. So I was talking to the lady yesterday, and I said, well, see what I do for a living is I basically go to people's home and deliver microbes.
Yeah.
Right. I spray microbes everywhere. And the lady says, well, why can't you just do it once? I go, well, that'd be great. Make sure you don't turn on your city water anymore. Make sure you don't use any fertilizers. Just go away, leave it alone and it'll be fine.
Yeah. They won't do it though. Oh no, I couldn't do that.
And I said the city water alone kills the microbes. And so the microbes are dying constantly. So I'm bringing a new army all the time. And what happens is that interesting enough, and is basically the first time today was the first time I went to this lady's house, right?
Okay.
So I sprayed my microbes, and 100% of them will die. 100% of them will die. I can tell you that from experience. The second month I go, hopefully the lady, I told her to go get some soil, to check for the pH of your soil, of your soil, You don't want to have soil higher than 7.2, 7.4, 7.6. It's way too high pH.
Yeah.
Ideally, you want 6.5, 6.8 pH. That's a perfect microbial level too. The soil and the compost. Compost is really pH of 7.6, 8, 7.8 is way too high. It burns it. So they have to apply all these things, make for a suitable environment to the microbes to go in. And then when I come and spray, that time maybe 5% of the microbes might live.
Yeah.
Maybe 5% of the microbes might live. They'll find little pockets. Basically, you can tell where they would grow because there's mycelium already growing there, for example.
Yeah.
Or the corner where the leaves were sitting for a while. They're like little pockets, that they will grow. I call them, what I do in my book, the first book, I call it tree vents. So what I want, and something that's similar that Layton does, because Layton does it slightly different. He makes a cage, and he makes I don't know, did he tell you how he does his
Hugo culture?
Yeah, right. He makes a cage, and he brings the microbes from microorganiza from other places, and let them grow in that one space.
Yeah.
So what I do is I get the clay drain pipes. Now the clay, this clay is paramagnetic. Did I go about that? Did I say that before? Because I say
we haven't talked about magnetism at all yet.
So this clay is paramagnetic. That means that means that basically it doesn't have a north and a south pole.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the way it is in nature. That's a really cool thing to happen, because that's the way elements. That's the way things are attracted to each other. All these elements are attracted to each other. Normally, will be attracted because it's a magnetism that pulls the different minerals together. And it doesn't have a north and the south pole. So and then when you have a place where the microbes live in the same place, so here you have a source that naturally attracts minerals. Because when you are doing the rock dust, when you're doing other sources of like compost and stuff around, they should have the minerals in there, which will get attracted into this one area, which has very rich in microbes, and the microbes break down exactly the ionic exchange. That's exactly how it works. The ionic exchange, because they're attracted to each other.
Yeah.
Of the iron and mercury and the lead, all these different things. So when you're getting a wide source of trace minerals, you want to have my tree vents are basically a community of microbes that live right in there.
Yeah.
It's a little city, and these microbes.
And for them, that's a big city because they're really small.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's a big city. What happens is that I get 4 of them. I place them at 12 o'clock, at 3 o'clock, at 6 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock around the tree, usually halfway between the drip line and the trunk. I learned from experience that's above so below. So if you stand under a tree and you look up, if you see these branches above you, the root systems are identical below it.
Yeah.
Okay? So you want to put these tree vents basically as close to these root systems as you can, because what happens is if you get them close enough, the microbes will start healing the root systems of the tree.
Right.
In that area that it's there, you're going to find, if you ever dig it up, you're going to find that the roots are covered with mycelium.
Which is how it's supposed to be.
Exactly right. And in the clay drain pipes is where I basically, there are different ways that I get minerals into the environment. I've learned one of the ways is when I make compost, I use a blend of the rock dust with the compost and let them cook together. Another way is when I go out to the farms to get the animal manures, I bring the rock dust with me and put it right on the raw, mix it right into the raw manure while I'm loading it up. The sooner you get the minerals and the bacteria together, the sooner you're going to get this byproduct of having this mush. I call it primordial soup, which basically is the microbes and minerals. That's the way it was in billions of years ago. See, that's what I have on my garage right now. I got this 5-gallon container, and it has 14 different kinds of rock up. Who knows what kind of microbes in there, and it's really biologically active. I can take a scoop of that and make 50 gallons of this incredible stuff. If you look under a microscope, you go, "What the heck's going on there?" Right? Right? You know what I mean?
Full of life.
And that I was at a place today again, and I didn't take pictures because sometimes I don't have it with me or anything. But she has the most amazing color of the roses, are gorgeous. She has sweet peas that are like taller than me, massive, giant things. And she's my business partner. You will probably see her on my podcast. Her name is Michelle, and we do it from the soil to the soul, which I hope people are watching because it's. And I wrote a really good poem, which I probably should have. One of the things I have to do is I have to apologize. I'm really working my ass off these days. Seriously. The rain was awful while it was happening, but now people are calling me and they're everything's massively. At least people are having all these different diseases and different pests on their plants, and they're getting tired of people going there and spraying something which temporarily fixes the solution. As soon as it wears off, bam, they get it again. Right. So they're saying, well, isn't there a more permanent solution? Right. And there's a law cause and effects. You deal with it, get rid of the cost, you eliminate the effects.
That's right. Yeah.
And it comes back down to trace minerals and the ability of your body, of the plant or your body or whatever, to absorb it and use it. That's what it comes down to. And in terms of, and so I was a friend who grows pot talked to me the other day. Says, "Okay, we're having a whitefly infestation," and then he says, "Okay, now we're having a mold infestation." Mold. Well, it's attacking. It's a white powdery mildew type of thing, on the leaves.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back down to, okay, and they all want to know, what can I spray on that?
Yeah.
Right. So I learned from experience, one of the cool things that you can spray, because people are thinking, well, let's spray something that will kill the bug and kill the disease. I said, well, why don't we just spray the microbes?
Yeah, actually give them more microbes, and then you don't have to worry because they'll be alive, and then it'll come back because there's life there.
So in the rainforest, you can find microbes in the leaves, microbes in the air.
Yeah.
You see, right? And so these diseases are only present they're mainly present because the plant's not getting the nutrition they need, and so there's a shortage of this mineral coming in. And it can come in through the leaves or through the root systems. Right? You can only get them. And if the root system, if the soil doesn't have them in there, it's not going to get it. No matter what kind of microbes you have in there, if the minerals is not there for them to break down, they're not going to get it.
That's right.
That's why you always have to constantly develop a blend of different minerals and then a blend of different microbes.
Yeah.
And put the two together and let the microbes go at it, and then you put it out and feed it, give it to the plants and stuff. Every single time when there's a pest or a disease, every single time it's related to a certain trace mineral deficiency. And that certain trace mineral always related to another trace mineral that's missing. So the calcium is a very big one because it allows for other types of minerals to be absorbed. It's a carrier for other sources of the more exotic ones. It seems like exotic minerals help transfer exotic minerals, and more exotic help to transfer even more exotic minerals. That's how they work.
Maybe it's a stepping stone system that Mother Nature has set up. You have to have the one before you can have the other, and then the next one and the next one.
Exactly right. So people now they key into nitrogen. This says that more nitrogen. Nitrogen is important. Well, nitrogen inhibits the ability of plants to absorb trace minerals. High nitrogen.
Yeah,
that's what it does. It won't absorb it. And when you have calcium, you need very little nitrogen.
Yeah.
Right. See, right, and if the nitrogen comes from a natural source, that nitrogen will hardly ever be higher than 2%, say, right? If that.
And I would say, yes, it is the same for us humans.
Exactly right. It is exactly right. And so then, and what's really interesting with both of these institutions, the agriculture and medicine, is that a long time ago they could have said, yeah, that's the thing. So let's just eat better and we'll be fine, right? But they're not going to make money that way. It's not very conducive to making money, right? Unless you're a farmer. right? You know, but if you're a doctor, you can't tell people eat well. Then nobody's going to show up,
Yeah.
right?
Anyway, Andy, I hate to do this, my friend, but I
Yeah.
have another show that I'm supposed to be going
Okay,
on
go
here
for it.
in about a minute.
Okay.
So we're going to have to end the show here, guys. If you have somebody to bring on next week, Andy, just let me know, and we'll start having guests on.
I will. I'll see if I can get them to start coming on. And any questions, just send them to us, and we'll talk about it.
You bet. Okay, guys, with that, take care. We'll see you next week.